Time I've seen like a kid got bitten by a dog on the property, and the parents they sue the tenant, but they also sue the landlord. Why is oftentimes I see landlord are liable for the nonsense that some tenant will do on the property because they don't live there, right? They just rent the place. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Danielle Bilumbu Leach, and here I am with my friend
Abu Jabi with AMP London. How y'all doing?
Let's Keep It Real now is back. And then once again, we're going to talk about insurance. There's so much to cover about insurance. I just wanted to make sure you guys were fully educated and you have as much information you could have so you can make the best informed decision. And we have here a guru, a specialist, and a broker in insurance, Madison Wu.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Danielle.
You're welcome. So this time right here, we're going to focus on more business with insurance. So anybody who is a landlord, anybody who is a tenant, anybody who, well, tenant don't own a business, but is part of the business of being a landlord. You know what I mean? Well, you know. Anyway. And also anybody that try to have insurance is because you decide to buy a business, not just in real estate, any type. Why is important to have a insurance for your business? And then that's what we're going to be focused on today. Hey guys, so tell me, I am a tenant. Oh no, let's start with the landlord. I am a landlord. I own a property. What's the benefit for me to have a landlord insurance?
Well,
What are the benefit?
For sure. You want to have a landlord insurance to protect the property that your tenant is renting, right? It could be a home, a duplex, a condominium. You want to have at least that building protection in place in the event that the tenant burns down the apartment, not on purpose, or in the event that there's a covered loss, like let's say there's a wind loss and then the tenant has to move out. They can't live in the home anymore. You as the landlord would then be protected as well to get your home repaired back to the way it was before the loss. And then also to recoup any loss of income. You don't have a tenant in there, so you're not getting the loss of rent coverage. So you need some type of protection there as well. Landlord insurance is extremely important, and it makes sense to have to protect both yourself and the tenant.
Does that coverage, for example, let's say we have a hurricane and the house is not livable right now, I have to make sure to cover the mold, whatever, right? So I'm going to have my hazard insurance going to take over and help me repair that. And the landlord insurance, would I be able to pull some cash and give that to the tenant if the tenant has to be relocated somewhere else? Can I do that with that money?
If you so choose to, yes. So you have your landlord's policy that's going to, of course, repair the property itself, right? And then you have the loss of income or loss of use coverage that you also will qualify for. And you have the option of giving that money to the tenant and helping them relocate until they can come back to the same property. Or on the tenant side, if the tenant had a proper renter's insurance policy in place, it would also cover for loss of use for them to move out temporarily to find a new place to live at, or make arrangements to come back when the home is repaired.
Okay. What's some of the coverage somebody needs to pay attention and make sure they should have on their landlord policy?
On the landlord policy itself, the most important thing you want to cover is the dwelling, right?
Okay.
And then if you have anything that you're going to provide for the tenants, for example, dishwasher, stove, refrigerator, that can also be listed on the policy as well. Of course, loss of income or loss of rents is something to absolutely consider, and liability as well. If there's going to be slip falls, if the tenant has some type of incident at the residence and they try to file suit against you or the tenant's guest because you are the landlord. So essentially you are the homeowner and they can come after you because you own the property.
Okay. So what's some of the stuff that you should not have on your property to make sure you will stay covered, or they will, when you file a claim, they will pay for it? Oftentimes I hear vicious pets, or I also see a lot of do not have trampoline on the property, for example. So would you mind break that down for us?
Yes. So trampolines are kind of a touchy subject. There are some carriers that will allow tenants and landlords to have a trampoline on the property and some will not. And then the same thing with the animals as well. So there's a list of prohibited animals. And then of those animals, it breaks down. Mainly it's dogs. There's certain limits of prohibited dog breeds like a German Shepherd, for example, a Doberman. Those type of animals or typically would not qualify you for renters. Correct. It would not qualify you for a landlord's policy. And then sometimes it could be difficult for the tenant to even purchase a policy themselves. A lot of carriers don't want those type of risks because it just really opens up the door for other things to happen. So we might as well just try to mitigate it as much as possible and not accept those risks.
What time I've seen like a kid got bitten by a dog on the property, and the parents, they sue the tenant, but they also sue the landlord. Why is oftentimes I see landlord are liable for the nonsense that some tenant will do on the property because they don't live there, right? They just rent the place, but they cannot be behind the tenant every 5 seconds. Why we see some of the things like that often? It's so weird.
Right. We live in such a litigious community nowadays. You know, everyone wants to have someone responsible for their actions. So as the landlord, correct, if you are on my property and it is not my dog, but that is my property and that it's the tenant's pet, for example, and causes damage to a neighbor's child or someone that's just walking by and the dog attacked them, yes, the landlord and both the tenants can be pulled into a suit because of the results of either a dog bite or some type of incident like that to the neighbor.
Okay. Is it because the landlord allowed the tenant to have a pet on the property? You think that's the reason, or is it just because they're just the landlord?
Because it occurred on their property.
Okay. Even if they don't stay there.
Even if they're not the yes.
And they know the owner of the pet.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right, yes. It's no different than change it up like at a hotel, for example. If you were mugged at the hotel, you can kind of pull the hotel in as a responsible party for not providing a safe environment.
Okay.
Lit area, cameras.
So never let your policy lapse for the landlord. Make sure you always have it in place. And then as for the tenant, the policy for the tenant, what would you say about this one? What are some of the things that the tenant needs to make sure they always have on? And could you put the landlord as a beneficiary on the policy also?
Yeah, so renter's insurance are really important to have. It's very reasonable. It's literally like the cost of a Starbucks, depending on what kind you drink. But with renter's insurance, it's really reasonable, and it protects you as the tenant, right? It protects your belonging. It protects the things that you have inside of this apartment. And it also protects you if there's a covered loss. Let's say all of a sudden there's a fire, or the neighbor was cooking bacon and he caused a fire that now damaged your unit, and now no fault of your own, you no longer have a place to live. Well, thank goodness you have that renter's insurance policy that's going to allow you to get a hotel, get an apartment, a temporary place to stay. And then if you have any of your belongings that were damaged either by fire or water damage, you can at least replace those items. Again, the cost of renter's insurance is so reasonable, it's silly not to have. And then if it covers just more than you at your place of residence. Let's say you were out and about and your car was broken into. They stole your laptop and your backpack and some of your belongings. That is something that you can file on your renter's insurance policy.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yes, you can't claim it on your car insurance. There's no coverage that will offer that on your car insurance. So the broken windshield or the broken window will be filed under your car insurance, but the items that were stolen is under your renter's insurance or even a homeowner's insurance as well.
Oh,
so that's something really neat to have. Again, it doesn't have to necessarily be in your vehicle. Your purse can get picked up at the spa or the gym, something like that as well.
So as an owner, I can have, I have to check if my policy have my laptop and my purse or whatever on that, but the purse was in my car, which was not in my house. I can still say the purse was in my car and I would like to cover that if I'm an owner and not a tenant.
Yes. Even as a homeowner, you can still have that protected as well. That would be an off-premise personal property protection.
Okay. What are some of the exclusion for the tenant or on their policy that it will never happen? You will never be covered.
Yes, for sure. The major exclusion is flood.
Okay.
So flood is never covered. That is a separate policy in itself. And then the definition of a flood loss is rising water. So not from your apartment or from the ceiling or the window. It's literally from the ground up.
Okay. And then as a landlord, could you ask to be on the policy?
Absolutely, yes. As a landlord, you can require the tenant to purchase renter's insurance. You can ask them to show you evidence, but one step further is you can ask to be listed as an additional insured. In the event that the tenant defaults on their insurance payment or they let the policy lapse, because the landlord is listed as an additional insured, they will be notified that that policy has lapsed.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know because sometimes people, when they're ready to rent, they go ahead and get it. And then 3 months later, they then lapse.
So if I'm a tenant and I don't get renter's insurance, right? Let's say a flood comes through, right? The landlord has flood insurance, but it messes up. The flood messes up my contents in the home.
That's your personal problem at that point, I guess.
Am I covered from the landlord's flood insurance?
Because the landlord doesn't have an interest in your belongings. That's why you have to purchase a tenant's flood policy. So a tenant's flood policy is just the belongings. It doesn't cover the home because you don't have an interest in the home. The landlord does. So he'll buy flood insurance for the house itself. You buy flood insurance for your belongings inside the house.
Yeah, so pretty much whoever he's the policy owner has interest on the policy, right? So you need to take a look at what's good for you, what's worked for you, what you really need it for.
Especially if you're on that first floor, buddy.
I think at this point, no matter what you do in your life, you just need insurance, right? If you're owner, make sure you have all type of insurance to replace the property if something happened. If the property burned, you'll be able to rebuild. If you're a landlord, you protect yourself against the tenant.
Yeah.
If they act crazy on you and come up with, I was going down the stair, I trip and fall. So now because of you, I can't walk no more. So at least you cover. If you're a tenant, in case something happened on the property, maybe you get broken into because unfortunately some home, they're very nice in Cuba. They're not always in the best neighborhood. So every single time I had a client, she bought a nice property not far away. I'm not, I guess, name the area, but in Central Houston area. But every single time the tenant was on vacation, the property was getting broken into. No matter what, I guess they were watching this house every single time. She had alarms, she had security camera, she had a lot of things all around the house, and she was also paying for the security camera. But the minute they knew the tenant was on vacation and they didn't have no car in there, they were coming broken into. By the way, when you have an alarm system and all of that around to protect your property, does your premium is a little bit lower?
Yes, you do get a discount for having a centrally monitored burglar or fire alarm. It's a minimal discount. The discount is not going to be enough to cover the cost.
At least a Starbucks coffee?
Yeah, Starbucks, half a cup maybe. It's not going to be enough to cover the service itself, but yes, you do get a discount. And then that's the thing with insurance too. We try to protect as best as possible, but sometimes it's for those unfortunate things that we can't predict. So it's always important to have.
What happens for, let's say, those people that never file a claim, right? I never file a claim. Am I rewarded in any kind of way? Is there programs out there where a person that doesn't file a claim within the last 5 years gets some type of discount?
The insurance thanks you for your service. Unfortunately, on the home side, there really isn't any discount that would typically apply. Of course, on the auto insurance, so many years without filing claims, accidents, definitely helpful. Not so much on the home side.
I saw something online the other day, and they were talking about insurance for damage on the property. So if you're a landlord and you're in the business of having tenants, sometimes the deposit is not enough to cover the full amount of the damage that the tenants will do. Sometimes they have maybe babies or they have pets, and then the pet eats and chew everything. So you realize you have to replace all the floors and repaint the entire home and fix a bunch of stuff. And you can end up with $10,000 worth of damage and repair to get the property ready for the next tenant. But I saw this company, they were offering a protection for that. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so that was really interesting, Danielle, that you brought that up. So it's called security deposit insurance, and it's basically for tenants who cannot afford the full security deposit when getting into an apartment or a home up front. So they buy this type of policy that then covers the landlord. So it's a 3-part policy that includes both the insurance company, the tenant, and the landlord itself. The tenant is purchasing this policy because they cannot afford the security deposit, and then the insurance company is guaranteeing this to the landlord. In the event that the tenant causes damage to the property, the landlord can then claim it on this insurance policy. Damages either to the home itself, or it can also be, I know we talked about property insurance a lot, but it also was for loss of rent as well, if they're unable to make their rent payment.
Yeah, but my understanding, based on what you were explaining, sometimes it doesn't seem like it really worked that well, right? Because if I'm a tenant and I have that policy, let's say I pay $2,000 for my deposit, but I'm paying an extra $50 or $100, I don't know how much is the premium on it, every month for that for a year. It's just $1,200. And now I have my dog who eats up all the carpet and damage the windows and damage a bunch of stuff in the house. And then you, landlord, will come around and you realize you have $15,000 of repair of a contractor to get the property together. Is this really worth it?
No, because on the policy itself, you predetermine the amount. So you determine the increments if you're going to purchase a $1,000 policy or $2,000 or $10,000 policy. So if you purchase, say, for example, a $5,000 policy, but the damages clearly exceed that amount, you're still having that gap of coverage in place.
Okay.
So not necessarily a great policy.
Okay, great. And then let's talk about business insurance. So sometimes people buy businesses like a store, whatever they want to buy, right? And then you also do that, right?
Yes. So and in terms of the business itself, typically it's tenant-occupied spaces, right? It could be a condominium office building or a medical building that you're occupying as a tenant. You are renting this space to run your business. And so we do offer business insurance for those type of individuals. It's a pretty straightforward policy, very similar to a tenant's policy, like a renter's policy if you were renting a home. But in this case, you're renting the space to run your business, and it would cover both your business property and liability, and loss of income would all be included in this one package deal. So it's a pretty great policy to have. Not as cheap as a Starbucks, but still reasonable, and highly recommend that you carry the policy.
Okay. And then what about the policy? If I'm buying a business, do you provide that type of insurance too? If the lender required?
Absolutely. So the same rules would apply as well. So if you're purchasing the business and you're financing the business, we can always add the lender on as an additional insured. In the event that you default on your insurance payment, they will automatically be notified so that they can adequately protect their collateral.
Okay, so anybody who wants to buy a business out there or have a business, she's your lady right there. Just give her a call. She'll take care of everything. She does everything. Landlord, tenant, seller, buyer, auto, everything. She's right there.
Do y'all also, like, if let's say I'm having an event, right? I'm having an event. It's a one-day event, and I need insurance for that event. Do y'all also cover for that as well?
Yes. Where are you coming up with these questions? You have a book of special questions? Yes, we do offer event insurance. So it's more of a specialized type of insurance. But yes, we do offer event insurance. If you're having a wedding, or if you're doing a pop-up or showing up at a farmer's market, or even having a sports event at the local park, for example. That was the latest one that I just finished working on. They're doing a kickball tournament. And so the park is requiring the host to have a policy in place. It's a really small policy. It's about like 3 days or something like that, 2-3 days, depending on how long the tournament is. And then it's based on the participants, if alcohol is served, what are the activities. But yes, a special event insurance, we do offer those type of policies as well. Very specialty.
Does it exist event insurance also for on yourself? Like you can insure an arm or like this stuff. These type of insurance exist?
Those I understand exist, but those are highly, highly specialized type policies. You wouldn't be able to necessarily call your local agent and ask them for those types. No, you're not calling your local agent. It's more like through a broker, such as myself, that you'll be able to purchase this type of policy.
Oh, wow. And then even, for example, you can also have a policy if the kids go on vacation somewhere, they can recover. There's so many insurance out there.
Yes, so that's travel insurance. That is
Okay.
absolutely available. And don't forget, Sasha, we have pet
Oh,
insurance
pet
as
insurance
well.
too?
Yes,
Oh my goodness.
yes.
Yeah, I know there was an insurance with health insurance for them.
Yes,
But there
pet
is also
insurance.
another insurance to cover if he bit somebody or act
No,
crazy.
that would be the liability on your policy.
Okay.
So the pet insurance is pet health insurance.
Oh,
If
pet
you-
health
like for
insurance.
the-
You
for
do
the-
that too?
Get sick.
For the vet.
Okay, tell me which insurance are you doing? So just give me an
It
idea.
says, I offer all sorts of insurance. It's kind of hard to say unless you're like well, asking me about the event. Like, how do you know about event insurance? So yeah, event insurance, pet insurance, travel insurance. Those are all that is available on the property and casualty side.
Which weirdest insurance request have you ever had? Like we don't cover that, or maybe you cover, or something rare that nobody would think about?
So the latest one that one of the unique ones that I did was a McLaren. So those vehicles are high-powered vehicle, very unique type vehicles, and a lot of companies they only offer a limit like 100,000.
Yeah.
McLaren is $250,000.
Yeah.
So those policies are hard to come by and they're hard to place. You purchase this expensive piece of automobile, and you can't hardly drive it. They require you're only allowed to drive it like 1,000 miles a year.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's not an everyday commuting type car, but
No.
it's available.
And then on the home, what's the biggest policy that people can have to cover their home?
Well, I mean, gosh, in the Houston area, just depending on the neighborhood that you're in, it can go into the millions, especially with the cost of inflation and just
River Oaks.
a single family home can go easily like $750,000. But some of the biggest homes that you can carry are like $5 and $10 million policies easily just for the home itself. Those are called high value properties. Again, not your local agents, but more specialized.
Okay, more specialized. So anybody they're buying a house like in River Oaks and stuff like that, just
Yeah, you would purchase a separate specialized insurance, and then I just thought of something else too. A floater, personal article policy, like if you have jewelry, high value items that
Rolex.
Exactly, Rolex, painting, Oriental rugs, collection, guns, those go under sporting equipment. Those type of policies, there's a limit that you can claim on your home insurance, and so you would want to purchase a separate policy just for those items. For worldwide coverage, you can be traveling, and if something happens, you would have that protection versus just a limit, and it's a very, very small limit.
Does some of your jewelry are covered under your home policy?
Yes, but only up to $2,500.
Oh,
So it's very, very, very limited.
So if you have a $15,000 engagement ring, get a specialized carrier to help you with that.
Pet insurance.
you're literally walking around with a small car on your finger.
I know, right? I know.
Pet insurance.
And this is something people like here a lot. Like the bigger the ring, so supposedly the better is the marriage, right?
Yeah. That's what they say.
That's what they say. but also what I learned is when you get engaged and you give you that ring and you don't marry the man, you need to return that ring because that's the promise ring. I'm giving you this ring with the promise that we're gonna get married. But if you don't marry me, no. If you don't, you're supposed to return it.
I second that. Give the ring back, women. Give them back. Don't take it.
But if you're married, you can keep it. You fulfill your obligation.
Your obligation. You fulfilled your contractual agreement.
All right, guys. Hopefully you learned a lot about insurance today. That was a fun topic. Even if when you hear the word insurance, you don't necessarily feel, but I really like it. It's very important. It's what we call here a necessary evil. It's not always evil when you're in trouble, but it's necessary to have it. So if you have any question, concern regarding insurance, so she just not only do property, okay? Like we heard, she does a lot. So make sure to give her a call. How can contact you?
Of course, definitely call me at the office or definitely email. You can reach out to me on social media as well. I have my Instagram. You can message me there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. That was the end of our episode for today. Thank you. I'm Danielle Bilumbu Leach with DBK Real Estate, Abu Dhabi with MP Lending. À bientôt.
You real man?